Nearly 98 million adults, a staggering 38%, have pre-diabetes. Close to half of Americans over 65 falling into the pre-diabetic category. Having high amounts of glucose circulating in your bloodstream may damage parts of your body such as your eyes and your kidneys. Would you like to try this simple hack and see how it affects your glucose levels? It's a game changer. Hello again and welcome to my YouTube channel, Dr. Hanz MD, where we 10x your success by optimizing your health. Are you one in millions of Americans finding ways to control your blood sugar levels? Today, we'll discover how adding a simple, common ingredient to your diet can help you achieve just that. Blood sugar management is a critical concern for millions of Americans. According to the CDC, nearly 98 million adults, a staggering 38%, have pre-diabetes. For our senior population, the situation is even more alarming, with close to half of Americans over 65 falling into the pre-diabetic category. So here at Dr. Hanz MD, we're constantly finding easy ways to help people control their blood sugar levels. Simple fitness or dietary adjustments can empower viewers to take control of their health and prevent complications. Today, let's watch as someone tests how apple cider vinegar affects her blood sugar levels after meals.
Apple cider vinegar is a heavyweight in the health hack world. One claim is that apple cider vinegar can blunt the blood glucose response to food.
Yes, apple cider vinegar may help blunt blood sugar spikes after meals for some, but this effect may not be exclusive to ACV. All vinegars contain acetic acid. It's what gives vinegar its sour taste and sharp odor. This is the component that's believed to affect our blood sugar response.
Frequent glucose spikes drive inflammation, over time increasing risk of chronic conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular disease. So tweaks that dampen glucose spikes matter for metabolic health.
I've mentioned this in my previous videos. Frequent blood sugar spikes can lead to insulin resistance that over time may develop into prediabetes and diabetes. Having high amounts of glucose circulating in your bloodstream may damage parts of your body such as your eyes and your kidneys. So stay vigilant.
Apple cider vinegar, or ACV for short, is fermented apple juice in which yeast and bacteria have converted the sugars into acetic acid. It's thought that acetic acid is the special sauce that can suppress glucose spikes from carb-containing foods.
Yes, several studies have shown that acetic acid does this in several ways, one of which is by improving your insulin sensitivity, promoting the efficient absorption of glucose from the bloodstream into the cells.
So I wanted to see if ACV impacted my response to foods that I regularly eat.
That's a good call. Testing this out on commonly consumed food would be incredibly helpful for the viewers. The clinical studies often use just one type of food, and the findings, though helpful, are limited in scope.
Each day, I'll eat the same nourishable salad for lunch and will vary whether I incorporate some form of ACV into the meal. Day one of my experiment is my control, a salad with no ACV. A bed of mixed greens topped with whole grain kamut, cucumber, cherry tomatoes, black beans, and guacamole, with an olive oil lemon juice dressing.
This is fantastic. I'm sure many of you eat similar salad regularly. And having a control meal like this, clearly presented to the viewers from the beginning, will make comparisons easier to understand.
Day two of my experiment, and first I'm drinking 4 teaspoons of ACV in 4 ounces of water, waiting 5 minutes, then eating the same salad. I chose this amount because it was the typical dose of ACV in the research studies.
Dilute the ACV water a few minutes before your meal. Sip it slowly to avoid overwhelming your taste bud. Remember, never drink vinegar straight, as it can irritate the esophagus and damage your tooth enamel.
Did the ACV drink blunt my glucose response? Using this compare tool in the Levels app, we see the green line is my control salad and the white line is my ACV then salad. We can see that the glucose rise is much lower and more gradual with ACV, earning a better zone score of 6. Looking out a full 3 hours, we see the ACV plus salad in red has a small and subtle rise in glucose compared to the control salad in blue. Based on this data, it does seem like the ACV attenuated my glycemic response in a really good way.
That's great result. Vinegar also affects gastric emptying. This is the process by which food exits the stomach and makes its way into the intestines. Research indicates that vinegar may slow this process, leading to a steadier release of glucose, helping manage blood sugar levels. Vinegar likewise supports healthy digestion.
So what's going on here? Why would ACV blunt my glucose response? One theory is that ACV may inhibit enzymes required to break down carbs from my meal. The acidity is thought to inactivate a saliva enzyme that jumpstarts starch digestion in the mouth. Cell culture studies have shown that acetic acid suppresses the intestinal cell enzymes that break down carbs into their individual building blocks. Together, these would slow down how quickly carbs can be absorbed as glucose into the blood.
The salivary enzyme she's referring to is amylase, also known as ptyalin. It starts the digestion of carbohydrates in the mouth by breaking down the starches into sugars. These sugars are easily absorbed by the body as it can cause spikes and crashes. Vinegar or acetic acid can inhibit amylase and may improve blood glucose levels and glucose metabolism.
I didn't really love the flavor of my diluted ACV drink, but I do like an ACV dressing. So I also tested swapping the lemon juice with ACV in my vinaigrette. My ACV dressed salad earned a pretty low zone score of 3, and it yielded a very similar spike pattern in yellow as the control salad in blue. Seems like an ACV salad dressing doesn't blunt the glycemic response. I wonder if this is because the dose of ACV is spread out over the entire eating period, rather than having the full dose immediately before the meal.
Most of these tests use the vinegar as a diluted drink, taken several minutes before a meal. As she said, this may be the key to optimize this hack, but some studies also show positive results when taking vinegar with the meal in the form of dips or fermented side dishes. Remember, the effect of food intake and exercise can vary from person to person.
ACV gummies are also very popular. I felt a bit conflicted about how many gummies to eat for my experiment.
I would rather have you skip using ACV in gummy form altogether. To tell you honestly, I would rather have you skip using ACV in gummy form altogether. They are often made with gelatin flavorings, artificial colors and fillers that don't really add anything to a healthy diet plan. Gummies have been known to cause bloatedness and nausea, so stick to the real thing.
Well, things got a bit murky with the bagel experiment. Here, my goal was to replicate a published study to see if I got the same results. Researchers had participants eat a plain bagel with butter and a glass of orange juice with or without that same ACV drink that I used in my salad study.
This is the second food pairing she's experimenting with. My hopes are not high here. I am not sure that vinegar can offset such a high amount of carbs and sugar in one sitting. A glass of orange juice will typically have 20 grams of sugar. Although it's natural, it's lacking in fiber known to slow down the absorption of sugar. Half a bagel has about 24 grams of carbs. These are refined carbohydrates notorious for causing blood sugar spikes.
Here we see the bagel alone in green and the bagel with ACV in white. The early part of the response is pretty similar, but then the ACV curve has this second spike that is even higher than the first. This would be exposing my cells to higher glucose levels for longer, which is more inflammatory and just bad news bears. My data is pretty different from this published study, and it turns out that the data is a bit mixed across other studies too. ACV didn't blunt my glucose response in the bagel challenge, and actually seemed to make it worse.
I could not have predicted that vinegar would make the glucose response worse, but my hunch was right about vinegar not being able to overcome the sheer amount of sugar and refined carbs in this meal. The lesson here is steer clear of free sugars and refined carbs. If you can't ignore your craving, take them in small portions and have them with some protein or healthy fats.
Why were my results different from published studies?
Many factors affect someone's glucose response. Aside from food, there's medications, hormones, stress, and even lack of sleep. Even if two people eat the same meal, their individual blood sugar reactions can differ. That's where continuous glucose monitoring or CGM comes in. It's a game changer, allowing you to track glucose levels over time. Keep a diary, noting other variables that affect you. With a little effort, you can proactively manage your blood glucose levels and overall health. This is a great video for people curious about the effects of vinegar on blood glucose. Would you like to try this simple hack and see how it affects your glucose levels? Then I have some tips for you. Interestingly, vinegar doesn't technically expire due to its high acidity, which acts as a natural preservative. This property gives vinegar a nearly indefinite shelf life. However, most vinegar bottles come with a best by date printed on them. This date indicates when the vinegar is expected to be at its freshest. Generally, you can keep a bottle of vinegar for 2 to 3 years without any issues. Opt for high quality vinegar. It should have a clear, crisp taste. Keep in mind that different vinegars offer varying flavors based on their ingredients. Consider how you'll use the vinegar. Is it for marinating, pickling, dipping, or dressing? The type of vinegar matters based on your culinary needs. Steer clear of vinegars with additives or artificial flavorings. This can sometimes make food taste metallic, especially when consumed raw. The FDA actually mandates that vinegar must have at least 4% acidity. This information is usually listed on the bottle. If you're using vinegar for pickling, look for a 5% acidity level. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this video. Share your experiences and progress in the comments section below. And I hope to see you again in the next episode of Dr. Hanz MD, where we 10x your success by optimizing your health.